on the dry coconut palms that lay on the ground, and Kate turned to look. Someone tall was silhouetted against the dusky sky and was moving closer. He hesitated and stopped before the bridge. Kate gasped in shock and instinctively moved to jump in the water, but a deep voice called out to her. "Kate, don't be afraid. It's me." He stood still on the ground next to the bridge, only a few steps away, but he didn't move any closer. In the twilight, Kate could see his penetrating eyes staring at her. "I didn't mean to startle you. I just wanted to see you. If I don't come now, I don't know when I'll see you again." "What do you want to say to me, sir?" "Don't call me sir. I don't want to intimidate you, but I just want to hear for myself." Kate looked around her hurriedly, afraid that someone might see them. "There's no one with me. I came alone. I came to ask you, so I could be sure. Is it true that you don't want me to propose to you because you love someone else?" Kate knew that if she just nodded and went along with her parents' excuse that she had someone else, Kun Luang would back off. But if she did that, would she be content? Kate hesitated, not knowing what to say, until he repeated the question. "Is it true? Is there someone else? Tell me straight. Don't be afraid. I just want to hear it for myself. If there's someone else, I won't bother you any more. You won't see me again." Kate lowered her gaze, feeling embarrassed, but she couldn't bring herself to nod her head. Kun Luang waited. He wasn't in a hurry, and he wasn't the least bit annoyed that she didn't answer right away, because it gave him more time to look at her. At last, Kate sat down on the end of the bridge and wrapped the dry cloth around her shoulders, because she was feeling colder with every passing moment. "There's no one else." Kate overcame her embarrassment as much as she could and continued. "My mother's worried about me. Abattoir told me my destiny. He said I'd suffer because of the good fortune of my husband. My mother's afraid." "Is that all? You believe in destiny?" Kate looked up at him, puzzled, as if to ask, "Don't you?" Kun Luang stepped onto the bridge, stopping when he'd almost reached the end, and knelt down. Now he was within touching distance. Kate sat tensed in alarm, but she was relieved that he was still smiling kindly. His teeth were straight and white, unlike the villagers, whose teeth were stained black from chewing betel. "I believe in karma more than destiny. I believe that our happiness or our suffering is a result of our own actions." Kun Luang was silent for a moment, as if he was finding the right words, and then he continued. "I respect Abattoir, and I've been to pay respects to him. I can't erase his prediction, but can I tell you something, Kate? And I'll tell your parents myself. If I can marry you, I'll never leave you. All I ask is that you'll never leave me. Will you promise?" Kate was embarrassed, but she felt strangely warm in the cool evening breeze that caressed her skin. The moonless sky was like a big dark blanket dotted with sparkling stars, and the trees around them were black silhouettes bending in the gentle breeze. The mangrove trees on the canal sparkled with the light of fireflies. In fact, it was no different from other moonless nights, but for Kate, it was the most beautiful night she'd ever seen. Thank you. Does anyone in the audience have any questions that they'd like to ask about the novel?ภาษาไทยก็ได้นะคะ
I consider my works as my children. I love all of them.
Well, I enjoyed doing every part of it. I looked forward to sitting down at my desk and doing the next part. The most difficult part was probably the names, because the Thai language has many different pronouns depending on the relationship between the speakers, whereas in English we only have I and you. So the difficult thing was knowing what names to use so that it stayed true to the original but didn't confuse English-speaking readers. Oh, so Kate is always very submissive to her husband, even when he's unfaithful to her. And Kunyin Narisa asked, do I think that readers will feel annoyed with her when they read it? Like, why are you not protesting? I think modern readers might wonder why she puts up with what she puts up with for so long. But I think we have to look at the novel in the historical context and also understand her motives, that everything she did with her son in mind, and her decisions that she made were based on the best interests of her son.
Well, I felt this almost the same as Kun Ying Narisa when I wrote the novel. I felt that why don't you do something more? Why do you just stay with him instead of finding a new one while you're still young and beautiful? But you see that she came from a real life person. I cannot differentiate her from the real life Kun Ying Gate. Although sometimes I feel that if she lived today, she should have done something more. If I were her, I would find a new husband instead of waiting for so long. In real life, the real Kujing Gate wait for more years than the novel. She waited about 7 years before he returned home to her and her son. That's one thing that I have to remind himself while writing a historical novel. But there's a frame around the novel that you can break through. You have to follow the characters in the past and follow their action, their feeling, their opinion. You cannot make a woman of 1932 feeling or acting like a woman nowadays. ใครจะถามจากใครก็ได้นะคะ
I mean, probably lots of people haven't read the novel yet. But for me, she does remind me a little bit of Jane in Pride and Prejudice. Do you remember? Because Jane is the very beautiful daughter who's very dutiful, and when Mr. Bingley treats her badly, she doesn't really fight back, does she? But she gets her man in the end. And so I think there's although when you're reading it at the time, you might be a bit annoyed, I think there's a lot to admire. So if there aren't any more questions, we can. Please. Well, actually, originally it was called Starry Night, and then it was too like we thought it was too like the Van Gogh, and so we changed it actually to A Night Full of Stars, because the Thai title Raatri, Bdao could be translated, in a few different ways. And then I went to an exhibition and saw this painting by the artist, and I feel really bad. I can't actually remember his name at this moment. And I thought it was beautiful, and so I bought the painting, and then we used that for the cover.
To add a little, that's strange enough. Hardly a romantic story, hardly a novel based on true story, end happily. But this one, and both Kate in real life and fictional, had her husband back, and they live happily ever after.
So now, if people would like to have singing, and Lucy, of course, who's signed the book, that would be lovely. Lucy, do you want to add anything or not?
Thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoy the book and recommend it to your friends.
So would you all like, yes, please thank both our speakers today.